And tonight I got a guest. I got my buddy Josh coming to us to. We're gonna share our experiences on and hunting and fishing and the different types of dogs that we are familiar with working with. As you know, I train beagles and run beagles on rabbits, and Josh was more into the retrieving and waterfowl hunting. So I'll let Josh introduce himself real quick, and then we'll get into it.
How's everybody doing? My name's Josh. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Grew up down there. Grew up in Delaware, going through high school. Just recently moved back up here. Got back up with Johnny. Had a few experiences that we could go through. Kind of just had a little talk and discussion about different things, how we handle the dogs. What different types of preparations we have for the dogs going into the season, after the season, post-season, pre-season, whatever you got to do to train the damn thing.
All the seasons. So I kind of wanted to touch base and see what if there was any questions that Josh had about the beagles. It'll be easier to break the ice if I do a little bit of the talking and then get Josh comfortable and see if some of you. We also are on Instagram Live, so if I'm going to get any comments, I'll be able to answer any questions. If you have any questions for Josh, just say, hey, this question's for Josh, and I'll get it over to him, and then we'll be able to answer them. But yeah. So what pops into your head first when you meet a guy and he's like, yeah, I run rabbits with beagles? Like, what's one of the first questions?
What do you use to keep everybody in check throughout the whole process of the hunt?
Okay, so, well, there's a lot of different options that we have. There's some of the older school options that people have the collars like I have here, like I was showing you before we got started. We have those collars, and a lot of the older school guys will attach bells to those collars so they can hear where their dogs are at all times. So if you stop hearing the bell, then they get too far off, then your basic obedience comes into play where they just recall their dogs, like say their name and say, come back, or different commands that they might have. Me personally, I'm more into I guess you could say the new school. I have GPS tracking collars on all the beagles. Right now I only have one that'll be on my main beagle, and then I have regular E training collars on all my other beagles, the younger dogs, and so on and so forth. When the dog initially gets starting to train, they get sent to a starting pen, and the recalling is kind of already there. With beagles, it's almost like and if I had to guess, it's almost like it's just like an instinct to come back. I mean, a lot of them, if their nose can get a hold of them, and they can be gone and stuff like that. That's why a lot of the newer age guys like myself and the guys I hunt with will not hunt dogs without the E-collars on them. And believe mine, my GPS collar has a 4-mile range, and my regular E-collars have about, I think, a 2.5 mile range on them.
So that's the one that you showed me when we tracked my buck, the one that showed your location,
yes,
the dog's location,
yeah,
so we could
100%.
kind of see where we were going and heading.
Yeah, which that came in handy for sure, because I never even thought about using that on a blood tracking dog, because here in our state we have to have the dog on leash at all times if we're in tracking deer. But letting him stretch his legs a little bit, letting him run around, off leash in the field. We were able to round them up and get them back with no problems. That way, there's a lot of these dogs. I mean, you can spend thousands of dollars on these dogs, and the last thing you want is to lose your dog, especially when you're in a state like Delaware where it's it could be 10,000 acres of corn and woods, and then the next thing you know, it's a freaking highway, and your dog's getting smoked, and you don't want that to happen.
Well, shoot, he made a believer out of me.
Yeah, that was very fortunate for sure. Yeah, we'll
definitely get into that one.
We'll definitely get into that story. I was shocked for sure.
Oh, I was too. That blew me away, man.
Yeah, I was excited. Now last year I did put a lot of time into them, a lot of mock trails, a lot of deer that we harvested and let them lay and drug them around a little bit, and he did really well in them. But it's literally been over a calendar year since I've put any field time into him at all, and took him right out of the kennel, put him in the truck, and we were able to get it done. Especially after recognizing the deer's behavior and being able to experience that, like, hey, if you tried to find a deer and it was injured and you pushed it, that is a mature buck, it's going to want to circle around behind you so it escapes your, you know, if you're a predator, it's looking to escape your nose, your sight, your sound, all that. So it's going to circle behind you. And after we branched out far enough, when I initially got there, you know, and the hours that you put in the night before and the morning of, you know, we branched out.
4 hours.
You put in 4 hours of tracking, and you know, and then finally decided to give me a call, which is, I'm glad you did. It was a real good opportunity to try a dog out, except for the amount of chiggers that I got. I got jiggers so bad, it's ridiculous. I should not have gone in the woods with shorts.
Yeah,
But
they got my back. They didn't get my legs. I had that permethrin on my boots.
yeah, my legs are so ate up. But
you good.
but the fact that we were able to rule out that the deer didn't travel away from where we had last blood, that it circled around to the back of us within seconds after we made the determining factor to put the dog on the trail and guide him kind of in a reverse direction. It was literally within, you know, what, 3-4 minutes we were on top of the deer's track again.
Yeah.
He pulled us right into it. It was great.
He did a damn good job.
Yeah, he definitely got some raw stacks when we got home, man. He was excited.
Good old steak dinner.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he did not waste no time gobbling that down either. He was whooped. He finally just got his energy back. Because I used to run him in the yard all the time, but if a 4-wheeler drives by like they do out here, it's curtains. He's going. He's chasing.
You say they chase tires.
Oh, he loves
So
to chase the
what do you
tires.
do for them as far as just everyday training? Like how do you train
With the beagles?
the beagles for just your repetitive training for things that you just do every day as far as, you know, nosing down and stuff like that?
Well,
following obedience.
With the obedience, I'm not teaching any of my beagles to sit. I'm not wasting the time teaching them to lay down. Well, down they kind of get. You know, when over time it's just repetitive down. You know, and you kind of just push them down. That way you could get your tracking collars on them, or pick them up and put them in the dog box. Because beagles, man, once they get that hunt locked into them, they just want to keep going.
Yeah.
And you know, at least the ones that I have experience with. Some dogs, some beagles ain't got it in them, you know, and they'll be back to the truck and ready to tap out in no time. But the dogs I got out here now, they're out of shape. In the summertime, you don't want to run the beagles because it gets so darn hot. And the dog will run itself literally into heat stroke just because it loves to hunt.
Yeah.
But we don't really, as far as like the repetitiveness when they're puppies, from like, I'd say, you could probably start at like 10 weeks old, 11 weeks old, all the way up to 6 months. You can get tame rabbits and, put them in a little enclosure with the dog. See if the puppy's got prey drive. See if he wants to be afraid of the rabbit, if he wants to bark at the rabbit, if he wants to chase the rabbit, if he's obsessed with the rabbit. You know, all those things will be determining factors to whether you want to spend the money to send him away to a rabbit training, it's called a starting pen. It'll be like a 2 to 10 acre pen, fenced in, fox proof, deer proof, you know, coyote proof, all that stuff that just these guys will trap rabbits, wild rabbits, and put them in there. And then they take an older seasoned dog who doesn't have any faults or has very little faults, and will put him in the pen with the puppies, and he'll run the rabbits around because that's what he's focused on. He's not worried about the puppies playing or anything like that. And he'll just start running rabbits, and then kind of just, after the puppies are in there following him around, they kind of just, you know, if they take to it, they'll put their nose down, and they'll start, he's barking when he smells this smell. And then, you know, sometimes they catch the rabbits, or sometimes the rabbit you'll run the rabbit so much that the rabbit will just lock up. And then it just won't be able to move. Like if you put enough pressure on a rabbit and you're running him for long enough, his body just cramps up and then he just falls over and the dog.
So they don't do anything. They don't grab them or pick them up, bring them to you.
A very unique set of dogs can retrieve rabbits after you shoot them. Yeah, but like my style of dogs, the only way they're catching a rabbit alive is if it locks up. Like my dogs aren't as fast as a rabbit is. Now there's my buddy Jimmy his dogs will catch a rabbit on the fly, but they're also beagles, but they're just like, there's thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of different bloodlines of beagles that you can get that will do different things. Right now,
they herd too, correct? So you
Yeah, so
herd
it's
them around
it's kind of
the
like a
track.
herding thing. Yeah, I would say if I had to try to explain it, it would be like herding because the, if you're in a position here and the dogs jump the rabbit right here, the rabbit will take off and the rabbit will always do a circle for if it's a good running rabbit. Sometimes the rabbit will take off. I have never had a rabbit run a straight line and never come back until until we killed him.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is by keeping the dogs will keep the pressure on the rabbit because if they slack off too much, the around on that route, that circle back to its original spot, the rabbit can find a hole or a tree log to go under or a pile of rocks to climb into, and then the dogs can't into a place that the dogs can't get into to chase them out. But
So that's where they would sound off.
yeah, well then they're sounding off the entire time. As soon as they smell a rabbit, a fresh track, they're sounding off. Bow, bow, and they're chasing that rabbit. And it's just like, I mean, a lot of people will, I mean, I consider it beautiful chaos. It's just like a beautiful thing. It's like an orchestra. If you got a pack of dogs, I like to run a pack of dogs anywhere. Yeah, I like to run a pack of dogs anywhere from 2 dogs, probably to about 10 dogs. There's some people that will run 30 dogs. But there's some people that will run 1 dog. I don't like to run 1 dog. It's kind of boring to me. It's just low. I need a bunch of dogs that sound different, or even if they sound the same and they can get in the same chop, it just sounds like an explosion of. It just makes me smile. Like I'll get you out there, you'll love it.
Oh yeah,
It's a good
I'm
time.
dying to try it this year. I've never been. I think I've shot a rabbit before with a shotgun, but never
Yeah,
with dogs and running and
it's so much fun,
the,
man.
The chaos and chasing them around and the adrenaline pumping when they come by.
Yeah, it's so much fun because and a lot of people, after the rabbit's been running for a while, so there's people that will, when the rabbit comes, they'll shoot it. Bang! The guys I hunt with, if we kick a rabbit up out of a briar knot or something like that, we're not just shooting it because we're not really in it just for the rabbit meat or anything like that. Yeah, we eat the rabbit, we feed the dogs the rabbit, but if we see a rabbit, it's just automatic. There he goes, there he goes, there he goes, and that alerts the dogs. The dogs hear us say, there he goes, there he goes. They'll come right to that location. You point, and it's like they're watching where you point. It's amazing. And they there he goes, there he goes, and they put their nose down in that spot. And if it's a good dog, they'll grab a hold of that track. They'll start running it a couple steps, because sometimes by the time the dog gets to it, the track will be a little old, maybe like 2 minutes old or something like that. And they'll get onto it, and they start opening up, and then it's just heaven after that.
Yeah.
Now a lot of some dogs, if they're not good, I wouldn't say if they're not good. I would say if their feet outrun their nose, they'll overrun the track. So like if they're running this way and the rabbit made a right, a lot of dogs will go straight past the turn, and then they gotta come back around, and then they'll find it again, and get right back on it. But yeah, it's pretty.
So is there one lead dog? Is there one dog that kind of leads the pack the most that's been doing it longer?
Yeah, there can be. All my dogs in my yard, all of them, I haven't had a hunting season over top of those dogs. I've had dogs before these that had certain faults, and I was just like, you know what, maybe I don't want to deal with them in this off season, so we'll find them new homes and then purchase new dogs and stuff like that. But a lot of people do have what they would consider, I guess, a lead dog that would be in the front of the pack. But a lot of times, the lead dog won't even necessarily be in the front of the pack. In my personal opinion, I would consider a lead dog. The dog could be anywhere in the pack, but the lead dog is the one that holds the track the most. So when that rabbit makes that right turn, that dog, 3 or 4 dogs might keep running straight, but if that other dog keeps following that track right, then in that situation, that's my lead dog. Because it can vary all the time. Just like, if you're on say you're on a construction crew, and on Mondays you come to work, you're amped up, you get it all done, boom, 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 you do the demo, you're telling the guys, hey, go here, hey, go there, and you do this. But then on Wednesday, you might come in a little hungover, or somebody might come in a little hungover and be dragging ass, and then maybe their friend steps up and says, "Hey, you do this, you do that." It's a lot of situations like that. Like it's a very
It's a multiple dog, multiple.
yeah.
Person, huh?
All the dogs got to be working in sync with each other to make the hunt successful. But there most certainly can be other dogs that are better than other dogs for sure. But if you run, it's more likely to make your dog make mistakes than it is for your dog to make other dogs better, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So like if I run a dog with my dog and my friend's dog runs a deer when we're supposed to be running a rabbit, it's more likely for my dog to go with that dog on the track versus that dog not doing that because he's with my dog.
Yeah. Okay.
And then once your dog runs a deer, you're kind of the laughing stock or I like to give a dog like 3 shots. Like if you run a deer 3 times, like all right, it's time for you to go to North Carolina and be a deer dog because rabbits aren't for you because it's just not. If your dog gets a hold of a deer and you're not paying attention to it, it's gone. Like next county, like within the end of the night. So it can be pretty bad. But that's why the e-collars are important because if I see deer crossing the lane and my dogs are hot on its ass, I'm lighting his ass up with the electricity. It's like, get your ass back here, like get in the truck, like we're done for today.
What is the kind of collars that you use? Like what brand?
I use 2 different brands. I use the Garmin Tritronic e-collars. They're just the regular. They have the tone, the beeping sound, and the stimulation, so the electric. And then I have the Dogtra Pathfinder Minis, which is the GPS that you look at the map on your phone, and that also has the beeping tone and the stimulation electric modes on that too. I like the GPS. Garmin makes a GPS too, but Garmin is so expensive. Even the Dogtras are so expensive too, but all my buddies that run GPS run the Garmin, so I can buy their hand-me-downs when they buy the new stuff, so it works out all right for sure.
Now I favor the Sport Dog brand.
Yeah,
I use them for waterfowl from running dogs for rabbits is 2 whole different. That's 2.
Yeah, that's why I really want to ask you about that.
That is way different in its own class. That waterfowl, trying to train your lab or whatever dog you're using, is complete obedience because you have to be. You don't want to be that guy in the blind that's sitting out there and dogs barking and everybody else is getting pissed.
Wants belly rubs and all that kind of shit.
Wants you to pet him all the time. Sends the dog out and he's following him, bringing the birds back. He's not giving it to the person that shot the deer or the bird. So you got to go back over, call him here, take it, and then you got to pass it down the line. It's what we call blind manners.
Right.
So you want your dog. You don't want to go out to a blind with a bunch of veteran dogs and your dog is young. Mm-hmm. It's good for them to see it because they will pick up on another lead from a veteran dog.
Right.
But it just, some of the other guys, if you don't know them personally, man, they will chew you out or ask you to go home.
Right. Just kick you right out of the line.
Yep, they consider it disrespectful.
So when you're trained, at what age do you start training? Let's just use your lab for example. And you said, I'm sorry, forgive me, I forget his name. Dutch. So at what age did you start training Dutch to be a retrieving dog?
As soon as I got him.
And how 8 weeks old?
By 12 weeks, he already knew basic commands: sit, stay, down, and dig.
Okay.
The first thing that I like to train with the puppies is just an easy exercise. Start moving their joints, start moving their legs, get the exercise in. We take training treats, toss them out in the yard, and you just repetitive dig.
Makes him put his nose down, look for the treats.
Makes him nose down and makes him search through the yard. So that way, if you're out there and you have to yell dig, he'll hear you. Dutch would stand up in the middle of the marsh weeds on his back legs. If you whistled for him, he would look at you and just wait to see what you told him in his next command. Then he would go on about his way.
I like
so
that.
We use hand signals with him. So he could be 100 yards. I put both my hands up and whistle. He wouldn't hear me. Then I would vibrate. Then he would know exactly. He'd turn around. He would stand up or look or whatever way he could see me. I put both my hands up. I pull one down, whistle, and point to the side, and he would know to go out in that direction. To his right.
He would go that. That's crazy.
At 100 yards away, he would do it.
That's crazy.
Back him up, tell him back real loud, or I could vibrate him twice, and that would make him back up.
Now, I guess when you get into that training stage of you know, you're at the 8 to 12 weeks old. You said at 12 weeks you start doing the treats in the yard and telling them to dig. Now, at what age would you say you expose them to the gun?
As soon as you can. I started off with a little cheap cap gun and would just
Like
toss
blank 22s, or like
just
just like
toss
cap
his
gun from
ball.
the dollar store type?
no, just a little cap gun at first, just to get them
Okay.
used to the noise, because some of them will get scared and they'll run.
Yeah.
But introducing the loud noises. Some people will take blocks of wood and they'll clack them
Yeah.
if you don't have a cap gun. But just a little cheap kid's little
Oh, yeah.
6-shooter cap gun, use
Yeah.
something like that.
Some
You
used to
just-
play Cowboys and Indians with back
You
in
get
the
them
day.
used to when you pull the trigger. A lot of people make the mistake is they'll throw something in the air first, the dog won't pay attention to it, then they'll pull the trigger.
Right.
You want to pull the trigger, then throw the bird to make him look up after the gunshot. So that way when that shot goes off, if he's looking over here or watching birds far away, as soon as that shot goes off, he knows to look right in your direction where the barrel is.
That's dope. So I take it Dutch was pretty much a natural when it came to the gun.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
never
he was
really
from
told
a
me any
good-
stories that he was
He
like
was
gunshot
an
or
American
anything like
lad,
that. Okay.
American chocolate.
Mhm.
The Americans and the English, they're all the same, just Americans. We have taller grass here in
Okay.
America for marsh weeds, so the American breed is a little bit taller, and it's more the working dog. The English lab is more the family dog, shorter
Right.
legs, stockier, a little bit broader head, where the Americans are a little taller to help them get through them thick weeds that they got to run over through the marshes.
That makes
we
sense.
have.
Yeah, I never really would have thought about that. The two differences.
Yeah, you can tell them apart.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I could definitely tell them apart by the way they look, but I never really dove into the background to see why that was, and that's pretty cool. Like, you can see that in a lot of beagle breeds too. Like guys that have beagles that are trained to run foxes or trained to run hare, who are bigger than the regular cottontail rabbits. You know, those bloodlines tend to have longer legs. Excuse me, longer bodies, longer necks, so they can see higher up and really build up speed to chase them bigger game animals than the basic cottontail that I run. Now, when you're and that you pointed out something earlier that I had no idea about. Like, if you were in a blind with a group of hunters, I didn't really know that there would be more than one retrieving dog on this.
Yeah.
So when you're in, say you were in a group of 6,
You would want at least 3 dogs.
you would want at least 3.
Yeah.
So one dog to serve as 2 hunters.
Yep.
That way his attention is, say you're on the left of the blind, Dutch would retrieve all of the birds that fall to the left.
Now, whoever would call his name. So if he's sitting next to me, and just say a set of 3 came in, and you got 2 out of 3.
Right.
All right. So what he would do is you would call his name, and then he would take off. He will only leave to his name. And how you train him with that is, you take his ball and you throw it. You tell him stay. You tell him purple, moose, green, orange,
Bunch of different distractions.
Dutch. And then he'll kind of flinch a little bit, Dutch. Then he'll take off. He won't leave until his name is called. So you always want to have him name trained is what we call it.
Yeah, that's definitely dope. Because with the we don't really have to see a lot of hunters, if they don't retrieve their rabbit right away. Some guys will be lucky enough that their dog will bring the rabbit back to them, but most guys, if they don't get their rabbit, well, I wouldn't say most. A few guys that I've hunted with, their dog will just try to eat the rabbit right there on site. Like, as soon as the rabbit's shot, you hit it with the 20 gauge or the 12 or whatever, depending on how hungry you are. If you go out rabbit hunt with a 12 gauge, the guys are gonna be like, "Dang, you must be hungry." You know what I mean? Because you're trying to get some shit done. So like
it's like using a 3.5 for ducks.
Yeah, exactly.
Tear 'em up.
They're like I hunt with a Stoger 20 gauge side by side break action, short, like it's like a coach gun, almost like when they would ride wagons back in the day. I got one of them, but my buddy hunts. He's gonna be hunting this year with a 410 pump, and we have a little competition going on. Sometimes we'll go out, and he has a YouTube channel too. It's Steady Pressure Kennels on YouTube, and
I'll have to look him up, follow him too.
yeah, for sure, dude. It's so sick. I went I'm featured in a couple of his hunts. It's pretty dope. And we just have, sometimes we'll do like a competition, right? So in Delaware, the limit on rabbits is 4 bag limit per person.
Now, how much is it per group for total? Or is it just
There's no
each of
total.
them? Okay.
It depends. Well, if
Or possession,
when you go
what do they call
to
possession limit.
yeah, I don't know
call
what
it
the
here.
possession limit is for your personal house. I think it might be like 20 or something like that. Like I can't have more than 20 rabbits in my freezer or some shit. But if you go to the lottery, there's a rabbit lottery at the Little Creek up in upstate. So it's not all the way upstate, it's like Dover. But
That's like prime grounds.
yeah, it's like the rabbits are like really controlled. Like you can only hunt there 3 days a week by lottery, and you're only allowed to take 4 people in your party. So it'd be like me, you, and 2 other people. You can run as many dogs as you want. But so in that case, if you limit it out, you would only be able to limit out with 16 rabbits. So you're not like hammering the population. Because there's some guys, if you go to other places that aren't regulated with game wardens and lottery drawings, they'll just go they'll go in there and just decimate the population, and it'll just be like hammered. Like you go in there one day, there's 20 rabbits every 10 minutes, and then the next time there's like none for the whole time. So it can be, it's definitely good that they have places like that around here. For
So
sure.
now, what is the rules for property jumping if you have to? I know that, and I've seen on some of the shows and different things where there's different laws and limitations for running dogs if a dog is on the property. What is the rules for here?
So if your dog chases game onto somebody else's property, I don't know the exact rule on it, but I'm pretty sure you just have to recall the dog right back. You know,
Okay.
I don't want to freaking incriminate myself, but there's not really many places to where you.
Well, it's hard to see a visible property line.
Right,
in the middle of the
it's
woods, so,
tough when you
I'm sure that there's an easement or something for that. I mean, I'm sure anybody you're at the end of the day you're trespassing. So
right.
but there is laws from what I've seen in Maryland, PA. Like I've heard a few people. I've seen a few shows where people were talking about it, where they were running dogs and bears and stuff like that on properties, and it's like they're allowed to cross any property with a dog, whether the people liked it or not.
Okay.
As long as their dog is there, they have.
Yeah, there's definitely some
the right
states that
to
have
it.
that.
Yeah.
For sure. You have the right to retrieve your dog off of that property.
Yep.
You don't have the right to keep following that dog and hunting the game that you're supposed
Yeah,
to.
I'm guessing it's a get in and get out kind of thing.
But it's also, I was always more concerned with the law that favors us, that if my dog runs into your property and you catch my dog, take the GPS collar off it, and then let my dog keep going, that's a felony on you. Like, like if you want to be a dick.
Yeah.
Like there's people they'll
I'm
go
sure.
out, they'll call
I'm
your
sure.
dog, come here, take the GPS collar off so you can't find it, and then let your dog go on, continue on its merry way. And then, but yeah, if you remove a GPS collar or an e-training collar from somebody else's dog, that's a felony. And I don't know if they'll lock you up for it, but you're definitely gonna be in trouble for sure.
So now, how do you guys hunt as far as a group when you have multiple dogs?
Oh,
Like, how do you don't shoot my dog?
yeah, don't
know,
shoot
kind
my
of
dog,
thing.
I'll shoot you type deal.
Right,
You know,
okay.
but a lot of the at least my style of dogs, it's very rare that they're close enough to the rabbit that you're going to make that mistake.
Gotcha. Okay.
You're definitely going to see, like if the dogs are on a hot track and they're pushing the rabbit, you're going to see the rabbit before you see the dogs, unless you got a lame dog that quits out of the chase. So you do definitely have to be aware of your surroundings 100%. But we would spread out. Just like if you're upland bird hunting, like for pheasant or anything like that, like you want to spread out, and if the dogs are running the rabbit, you kind of want to try to. See, I've never hunted with the GPS collars. I've always had the regular ones, so I could never tell which way the dogs were going except for by sound.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of position yourself in a spot to where you know the rabbit's going to cross, or the rabbit's going to come to you. So if we're all walking together and the dogs are hunting and they're going in and out and they're looking for the rabbits, we're all just walking together and chatting it up. That's just one scenario, and then the dogs jump a rabbit and we kind of fan out, like move into a formation. Like 2 people will go right, 1 person will stay in the middle, the other person will go left, and then if the dogs happen to turn the rabbit left, then the guy that's on the far right can loop around and come behind everybody. But we gotta be super aware of where you're shooting, because you don't want to shoot somebody. But you always have to wear orange when you're rabbit hunting. So if you shoot somebody, you're kind of being really careless. But there's situations where the hunting might be a little harder. The dogs can't find a rabbit, so everybody spreads out ahead of time, and like I said, kicking briars, flipping logs, you know, pushing stuff over, trying to get a rabbit to run if they're in there, and then you call out, there he goes, and you watch which way the rabbit went, and then say, I'm to your left. You say, yo, Johnny, rabbit's coming to you, coming to you, and then I'll put the dogs on, and then the dogs will take the track, and you know the rabbit, last known lane of travel for the rabbit was towards Johnny, so it's going to loop around and come back this way, or it's going to loop around and come back the other way. So you kind of want to just, if you jump the rabbit, you kind of want to stay put. Like if you jumped it, stay put, don't go running after it, put the dogs on, and go from there. The first couple of times when I take you out, we'll do it together, so that way you can see how it works, and just a way to be 100% safe with it. You're familiar with firearms and how to use them, so I completely trust that you wouldn't shoot the dogs or anything like that. So it won't take long to catch on. But there's a lot of
it's a fear. It's definitely a fear.
Yeah, I was.
It's
Listen, my buddy. Here's a little quick story before we get too far off in the stories. I want to ask you more about training the labs, but I was hunting a location with my buddy Taven and his cousins and another one of our friends, and we all had dogs out. And Taven's dog Boomer was hot on this rabbit, and we've been trying to get this rabbit. This rabbit was just running circles in this little hedgerow, and we could not get it. We could not get a shot on him. And this thing come out of the hedgerow at the very end, and I happened to be there, and Boomer was right on his ass, probably from my liquid death can to your monster can, and the rabbit was probably from me to the bookshelf over there, and I just pulled the gun up and shot. I was so nervous I had to go check Boomer's ears to make sure I didn't hit him with any lead. Like that's how close he was, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna take that type of shot again.
It'll get you scared. So when you're duck hunting, the worst case scenario is you send your dog out. Say you know you got a set come in, you by yourself or a group, you drop two. He's got to go get one, and then he's got to go right back out. So he's got to get one, bring it to you, and then you send them right back out to go get the other bird. He's halfway coming back through your spread, and here comes some other ones coming in low.
On your anxious buddy wants to jump up and freaking.
Because it's, you know, when you're aiming, you got an eye closed or two eyes open, so you're swinging, and and they're moving, and right about to pull the trigger, there's the dog right there in the spread, and you hit him right in the face.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that for sure.
It won't kill him from what I've heard. I've had a couple of people shot him, but it will put an eye out. You know, or
then you get infection and all that. There was actually a guy up at, I don't know which lottery it was, but it was a duck hunting lottery, and he was, he sent his dog out to go fetch a down bird, and by the time his dog went to leap out of the dang on blind to go get it, he pulled up to shoot another set of birds that was coming in, and just clapped his dog right in the back of the head, killed him right there on the site. It was pretty crazy. That happened right here in Sussex County, man.
I couldn't imagine that.
It was nuts, man. At least the story was nuts. I didn't see it personally. Obviously, I'd probably be pretty messed up back there. But I couldn't imagine being that guy. You know, put all that love and compassion and time and money into these dogs. Yeah,
it's definitely an investment in.
Yeah, not only financially but emotionally too. You know what I mean? The only reason I haven't tried to find Finn a new home because he's been my boy for 4 years. I can't. You know.
Well, I'd keep him.
Yeah, he ain't going nowhere now. Fresh off the bench, he
found that deer.
Yeah, for sure, he ain't going nowhere yet. But I felt bad all summer because I started the lawn care business and I work nights and I haven't been able to get them active and stuff like that. But they're happy. Like my girl will take them out with the kids sometimes, or he'll come in the house when the storms get real bad and chill. But we got 5 kids in the house, so there's just not room for him in this house anymore. It's just so I had to build the enclosure for him. And, you know, he's obviously got a huge enclosure, nice kennel, rain-proof, waterproof, all that. So he's not uncomfortable by any means. You know, and even in the wintertime, he's a short coat dog, but, I mean, he's never out there shivering. You know, he's got bedding. I even thought I got heated water bowls that all go out, so they never have iced up bowls or nothing like that. So they're all pretty set up for the winter. But
he was a home dog, so.
Well, I noticed that a lot with the. That's a lightning bolt. No, it ain't a beetle. I noticed that a lot with waterfowl hunters and even some coon hunters. Like their dogs will be house dogs.
Yeah.
And then they'll take them out and train them on that other stuff.
Well, it's for that much obedience, you have to work with them every day.
Yeah, like nonstop.
It's yes, every day is training. At least you get home from work, get everything done around the house you need to do before bed. Take them outside for an hour and just go through simple drills. One of my favorite drills is when a dog goes to retrieve, you want him to go out and come back. So when he's early, a good exercise that you can do to get him to accomplish just straight out and straight back to you is not taking them out into an open field for their first time. Take them along the side of a fence, or a hedgerow or something like that.
Okay, so he can't loop.
Yep, so he can't, he can't go out wide. So you'll throw it out, you'll wait, you'll give him this command, he'll go out and get it, and he has nowhere to go but straight back to you. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. That's like creative. I never would have thought of that. Yeah, like with the beagles and I guess the foxhounds and the deer dogs and the coon dogs and stuff like that. They're more, and I'm not saying that like waterfowl dogs and whatever the other dog I said was more. I'm not saying they're less gritty than like a beagle hound or a coon hound or anything like that, but I don't have to worry about as much obedience with the beagles. All I needed to do is put the e-collars on the dogs, and they'll know. Oh, if I feel that little stimulation, that means come back. A lot of the dogs, you get them tone broke. So when they hear the beep, they know to come back to the truck, or they know to come back to your feet, or they know to reset their loop. All of our dogs, at least in our style that me and my buddies hunt, it will be a shallow hunt. So when they're looking for the rabbit, they'll go out maybe 50 yards in both directions, and in front of you and behind you. But they don't have to go behind as much because we already been there. But when we're walking with the dogs, that kind of hunt 50 yards out, and then they circle back to your feet, check in, come wag your tail, jump on your leg, then you're like, all right, go. And then they go back out, do another loop, go back out, do another loop, come back and check in every 10, 15 minutes. And that it almost seems to me, this is going to be my first year starting my own puppies and training my own puppies and seeing what kind of rabbit dogs they can develop in. So I don't really know if it kind of comes naturally or if that's something that is taught. Because the two older females that I have, it's just natural to them.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it's because somebody trained them that way or if it was just comes to them like, hey, I've been out here too long. I need to go say what's up to my master or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. These dogs came into my life at the perfect time because I was just like bored, going through a breakup, and it was just like, oh, well, why not just get 13 dogs in your backyard and go raise hell somewhere? I had 13 at one point. Now I'm down to 6.
Now that's something that, and again, I'm not a professional. I've learned everything pretty much by myself, YouTube, friends, people I know in the hunting industry. So I learned everything by myself. So everything with me, with my dog, was trial and error. So I learned a lot of ways that I can improve. I mean, there's many things on YouTube you can go on and, just to be able to watch and pick up a few different techniques and try it and see if it works for your dog.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm far from perfect. Believe me, I'm only a couple years in. There's guys been doing it since they were in diapers that I'm learning from, and that's pretty much it. Like I'm always learning. The best thing, I think Josh can agree with me on this, when you're in the dog world and the hunting world, you want to remain. I mean, pretty much in anything, but especially in these two things, you just want to remain teachable. You don't know everything. You might have the best dogs in the country, but you can still always learn from somebody else in a different way, for sure.
Always be open-minded.
I definitely got to be open-minded at all times to be able to keep moving forward and excelling in this dog game, because it can be crazy.
In my opinion, obtaining your dog's just upright respect. That dog's got to have, for you to be able to tell your dog to go, 100, potentially 100, 200 yards out to go fetch a goose that you might have hit kind of far back or something, or an odd shot, and he's flying and flying and flying and goes down and he's 150 yards away. That dog's got to trust that when you're telling him to go, he can go, get there safely and come back. So it's a lot of trust. So I like to call it his full undivided attention.
Yeah,
you can look at your dog and he stares up at you. You'll see a lot of dogs when you go out in the waterfowl community. When you get out into the marsh and you watch people's dogs, you can see the ones that are really good and listen are constantly always looking up at their owner. They're waiting for the command. A lot of people would say, well, he's waiting for a treat.
No, he's waiting for a command. He's dead,
Yeah.
staring you dead in your eyes, looking to the back of your soul, because that dog will trust you with 100% of every action that he's going to choose to make that day.
Yeah, 100%. And you get that with beagles too, except for the command for the beagles to go do what they do is that dog box opening up out of the back of the truck. When that tailgate drops, after they felt that gravel road or that long drive to the location, they already know. They're in the box whining, shaking their ass, freaking tails going crazy, like it sounded like a drum roll, literally. And once they know that tailgate drops, it's on from there. And then they pretty much are, like, if you got good enough dogs, they're intelligent enough to know, hey, I gotta get this rabbit. And I noticed there is guys that'll do the treat, the task reward thing. A lot of the guys in the, I guess in the rabbit dog community, it'll just be some pets. You know what I mean? We don't really tote, glizzies or freaking dog treats around in our pockets, training the dogs on the hunt. But when they're puppies and stuff like that, with the nose training, like you were saying, you do the dig training with Dutch, throw the hot dogs or the dog food in the yard and let them sniff around, use their nose and stuff like that. A good rabbit dog, there's two distinctions to identify a good rabbit dog, in my opinion. They're going to have, underneath their nose, is going to be raw. There's going to be no fur, no nothing, because their nose is on the ground smelling. And then their ears are going to be shredded from the running through the briars, chasing the rabbits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you got a gritty, hard hunting dog for sure.
Now the labs, they get the skin missing in their chin because they put their chin down in the bottom of the weeds and they rub their chin across as they're sniffing, so that way their nose never barrels, down in the
Gets
mud
clogged up.
or gets clogged. So the bottom of their chin will get real raw, and you can tell a good dog or not that does it a lot or is trained a lot because he'll have a bunch. It'll be just like a.
I noticed that in the
patch
picture of
skin.
Dutch that you sent me earlier.
Yeah.
When he was standing up on that log, like you could definitely see like his chin and under his nose was raw. Like
And
he definitely worked.
you get it from that, or the worst thing you could do is let your dog play with a plastic bottle. Plastic bottles do what the labs do.
Yeah.
You have to get the cream and put the little mousse on his chin too. But
Yeah.
once that hair is gone, it won't come back. Like he was bald, it looked like he was had one of the mustaches that came around the front of his mouth.
Yeah.
But he was a good dog, man. He would pretty much do anything I would ask him to do. There wasn't really any defiance at all by him. He was always good. He would listen to me. He would listen to my son.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, would it be like when you're training the waterfowl dogs? At least when we're training beagles, the males are a lot more hard-headed than the females. Like the female will, I guess, quote unquote, submit to you more than a male dog, who's pumped full of testosterone, muscled up, who will kind of get that mentality like, oh, I might try you. You think you're the alpha, I'm going to be the alpha. And then you got to kind of be the alpha over the dog. And with beagles, they're small dogs, so the e-collars kind of take that out of the aspect. Like if your dog's being hard-headed and stuff like that. The beagles don't get aggressive. But I noticed in maybe some of the bigger dogs, not necessarily labs, like when you were training Dutch, did you notice anything where he was kind of trying to be coming into his prime, like 2-3 years old, where he was like, don't gotta listen to you, I'm big and strong now, type deal.
Yeah,
like, did
you'll
you
face
experience that too?
Now they say that the black is the easiest to train.
Okay.
Yellow is the next. Then they say that the chocolate is more stubborn and hard-headed as far as training, and they say the silver is the hardest dog to train.
I've never even
out of
seen
the
one in
labs.
person.
A silver lab?
Yeah, I
You
haven't
can
seen
only
one
get
in
a
person.
silver out of chocolates.
Okay.
So I believe it's 2 chocolates. If they have a baby, or it's a chocolate and a yellow, are the only way that you can have it. It's a rare color. It's
Yeah, I would say
rare
it's
to
pretty
get.
rare. There is some silver, like a breeder out in Kentucky just had a couple of silver beagles that they looked pretty nice. That they're like an anomaly, I guess. They only come every so often.
Yeah.
You never really see them.
Now the silvers, they're rare for the breed, but they're not rare in a sense where you can go online and buy them if you wanted to. But a
Right.
real silver is super light colored, almost white blue eyes.
Yeah.
And it's got a very dark, almost like it would look more like a GSP.
Okay.
And its hair is just a little bit more smoother
Right.
than like the block-headed chocolate. Like the chocolate is probably the biggest in the yellow.
Yeah.
They're a lot bigger than the black and the silver. Like
Right.
Dutch, he was at I think I just seen a post on Facebook from the memories when he was 7 months old. He was 86 pounds.
Sheesh, that's a
At
big
7
dog.
months. Yeah, he was a big dog.
That's a big dog.
Um,
All my dogs in my entire yard don't weigh that much.
No,
Nah, I don't. I mean, Finn might be like 55, 60 pounds, but
yeah, he's a
he's
big
a little
boy,
thick.
man.
Yeah, he's a little thick.
He
But I
grew
guess
up
'cause I
quick.
see him every day, he doesn't seem that big.
Because it was, we started off and we took him home. And he just fit in the palm of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to get him, I chose him because he was the most docile. He was real loving and caring. As soon as we got him home and put him on the floor, man, he started barking, was biting everybody, running around the house like a nut. I'm like, what happened, man?
Right.
I specifically
He got
took this
comfortable.
dog. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's like when
funny.
we got home, he was like, gotcha.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Anything to get out of that little pen. But his dad was, I mean, when we walked up to the door, and this is at the time, I pushed my ex behind me, and I'm like, back up a little bit. I'm like, are you going to get the dog? Like, this thing is huge, man. Like,
Right.
He jumped up to the edge of the fence, and I mean, his head was right there, just sitting with mine, maybe an inch higher.
Yeah.
When he was on his back legs. He was a big boy.
Yeah, I get nervous around big dogs for sure. Like I'm cool with like beagles and stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to get bit by a beagle, but I don't want to get bit by anything, let alone something that weighs almost as much as I do.
Yeah.
My mom has that freaking dog that she got stupid big. It's freaking stands up on its back legs. It's like 6'5". I'm like, what the hell are you doing with this dog? Like, wait, you protecting a flock of sheep? Like, what the hell is this?
Pet rides for the kids.
Dude, it's freaking
Cards.
huge. It's huge, dude. Like, literally, if she stood up on her back legs, her head is up there by that orange thing in the corner of that freaking. I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Bigger than all the dogs.
I would like to, here in the future, get a couple of dogs and start training, start breeding some.
Yeah, that would be.
That's going to be my next step to try to get into. I would have liked to have had Dutch with me now, but
Yeah.
I don't have them anymore, and it would have been definitely a good time to have them this year. Hopefully, it's a cold
Yeah,
year.
for sure. The leaves are starting to turn already, so hopefully it gets cold.
Yeah. Well, last year sucked. It
Yeah.
really did. I mean, Ryan, he got a banded black duck last year, but we didn't really have much to work with. I mean, there was birds
Y'all
out
didn't
there.
have a dog
but it
either, so
wasn't
you're a
lot,
lot
no.
more selective on what you shoot when you don't have something to go out in that freezing
Yeah.
water for
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean?
Well, especially on the salt marsh. There's not too many places around here that we can get into fresh water without it being private
Mm-hmm.
and without 500, 1,000 other people trying to hunt it. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's some lottery ponds up in Dover that you can, you got to get up there at 4 a.m. The lottery draw goes on at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
You get up
pick your
there,
spot.
pick your spot. Well, you don't even pick your spot. You put your name in a bingo machine, and they roll this machine, and if your number comes out, then they're like, all right, now you pick your spot.
So there's a chance you can go up there
And
and
get
then not
nothing.
even get picked at all.
and get
Take
absolutely
the ride home
dog
to
shit.
Shane back home before.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's usually enough spots for everybody to go. But, I mean, at least for rabbit hunting. Rabbit hunting, there's not many of us. There's a lot of us, but there's not a lot of us at the same time. Not like waterfowl guys. Like, waterfowl guys, y'all are fucking crazy. Like 4 a.m., y'all are boats loaded up, dogs in the back. The guys that go without dogs, I don't know how you do. I won't waterfowl hunt without a dog.
We did last year. I
I
mean,
can't.
it's
I
not
can't.
bad as long as you're getting them, close to the spread. But there's times where they get a little far away and it's hard to find them. It's hard to to pick up on them. Then you got the current coming and it's like
Yeah, how do you? So that's another thing I wanted to ask you. You got so if you're hunting these salty, tidal, I guess creeks almost, especially as you get more towards the Indian River inlet. Like, how confident are you that your dog can go? Are the blinds and stuff in them currents that are gonna if you're gonna row your ass off in a kayak? Like how the equivalent of your dog swimming? Like, how hard would you have to paddle on your kayak to keep up with your dog?
If I threw a decoy out into the water and let him jump out to go get it, and I tried to swim, I couldn't beat him.
Right.
He would get to it and come back before I could.
When you obviously you're not going to be like, hey, let's go train my dog in the Indian River inlet. And that just wouldn't make sense to me because obviously that current is super strong. So I guess when you're picking your location, you take that into an account. Like, okay, the current is really strong here. The ducks are going to be swept away really fast. Now, if you shoot your duck and it falls in, do you just send the dog right away? Or do you check to see if there's maybe another group coming in before you send the dog?
No, we send them out immediately to go
Just
get it,
get
especially
it
if there's
right
a current. The labs are smart, man. They'll pick up on it. Dutch, the first time I ever sent him out in the fast-moving current, the first thing he did was grab the decoy, went to the other side, went up the stream, jumped back in, and then angled himself
Oh,
straight to me.
shit.
Yeah, I
That's-
never taught him that. He did
that
that
takes
on his
brains
own.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I was blown away. Labs, they are smart, man.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure.
Real
I mean,
smart.
beagles, they'll get in the water and chase a rabbit if the rabbit goes into a little stream or something like that. But I haven't had one that was just looking forward to going swimming or anything like that. Even Finn, with him being part GSP, he chased a live duck into the creek down the road before, and I think he was like shocked that it was water that he landed in when he jumped to chase after that.
Well,
Then he
there's
was like, I
a
gotta
friend
go
of
back.
mine took his GSP down and went to take him out duck hunting, and the dog froze there.
Yeah, it's definitely
They're
not a
not-
cold weather dog.
Yeah, I know people that do it, and you see people doing it with them dogs, but that's got to be down south somewhere where it don't get as cold.
Right, it's like it's -2 degrees
Yeah,
below
there's-
freezing. You know what I mean? Like that's cold.
So you have a little small blind for the dog to get into. So what we would do is we would take either a bunch of hand warmers and lay it in there on the bottom, or
Okay.
you can get some type of thing like
Little thermal
Ryan
heat thing.
had suggested that he's seen the guys are taking the thermocells without the pad in it
Mm-hmm.
and putting them inside of the waders. So the guy's been putting 2 of them inside of the little
Oh,
blind, so
shit.
it keeps the dog warm.
Yeah, with no scent things in there, you're
Yeah.
not choking the dog out.
Yeah.
It's just got the
So
heaters going.
Take it, turn it on, take the pad out of it, stuff it down the front of your waders. You know, just a tip, if you guys don't know, it's another way to keep yourself warm if you don't have heated waders.
Yeah, I
I
never
don't
really
have
thought
any
of that
waders.
at all. I don't have waders. I got a pair of Drake waders off Ryan one year, and I was trying to find the leak, and I thought I found it, and I went duck hunting, and I didn't
And you
find
see
it.
me suffer.
And my boots filled up immediately as soon as I went there trying to retrieve the first duck, because the group I was with was like, hey, you gotta go.
Now that was the
retrieve duck.
equators. The
Yeah.
equator waders. The
The
real big, the heavy tank feeling ones.
Dude, oh my god, they were so heavy. I
Now,
was
we
like,
had got into. I'm running the new Drake waders, breathable. Ryan's got the Rogers waders. Night and day difference between the breathable
And weight.
You wouldn't think, and weight. Yeah, it
Wow.
almost feels like you're not wearing anything.
that's crazy.
And my first thought was they would rip.
Hmm.
So going through the briars, brush, I haven't had anything tear a hole in it. I haven't had
Wow.
one leak out of them, man. And you would think by holding it that they would rip or be real fragile
Right.
compared to them thick neoprenes, but
Yeah,
one
neoprene is a
problem.
pain in the ass.
yeah.
Heavy as shit.
I won't run neoprene again.
That's good.
Me and Ryan both were talking about that before. How the neoprene ones, every pair I've had,
Yeah, okay.
every single pair.
Yeah, I could. There's people out there that'll charge you to fix them and stuff like that, but you might at that point, how many leaks you gonna get? You might as well buy a new pair that don't ever leak.
Yeah.
The non-neoprene. Like up here, I have this all is all my briar-proof gear.
Yeah.
So, like you can't come out and rabbit hunt in regular Carhartt bibs. You'll shred them. They'll be shredded up, stuffing all falling out. You're gonna be pissed. You can't wear nothing to work the next day because your warm clothes are now shredded. Like all that stuff is briar-proof, snake bite-proof, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
like you have to have heavy-duty material. I've burned through I had a pair of muck boots. I actually think I got them from Ryan too. The first maybe 5 times I took them rabbit hunting because you get into the marsh and running them rabbits that are in the marsh, and after you ran through the briars, it just freaking shreds them because they're neoprene too. The briars do not take well to neoprene. They just shred it.
Oh, I
shred it
bet.
right off.
I bet. I've had a few times where I've had a few pinholes just from a light set of briars or some type of branches or something poking a hole in them. And
Yeah, it gets pretty rough out there rabbit hunting. I mean, sometimes, like in most locations, there's some lanes cut where there'll be a break in the briars or the break in the CRP or the sorghum or the cornfields and stuff like that. You'll have little lanes cut in, but the rabbits aren't gonna be in the lanes unless the dogs are already running them. Then they kind of cut across the lanes and stuff like that. So if your dogs ain't hunting hard or they're having trouble finding a rabbit, you got to get in this thick stuff and just literally just crawl through there. Like, I mean, there's sometimes I'm army crawling underneath briars trying to get out of them and shit like that. It's like nuts. You almost want to rock with a machete, but you put miles on your feet when you're rabbit hunting. Like, it's just non-stop walking.
that was like the buck the other day that we found.
Oh, did we
we
put-
put quite a few miles in
Yeah,
that. And I was already looking for 4 hours before you got there.
that. Just imagine that, but like your adrenaline's pumping the whole time because the dogs are trying to get that rabbit, and you're like eyes peeled. Like my eyes you'll be so shocked. I'll be riding down Route 1 doing 70 mile an hour, and I look on the side of the road. I see the little ears. I said, "Oh, babe, there was a rabbit."
Yeah.
She's like, "How the hell did you see that?" I said,
Yeah,
"It's
once
just
you're looking
after you
for 'em,
keep
man,
doing it and doing it and doing it, like you see it." And
that silhouette just stands out to you. Same
Yeah.
thing with deer hunting. Once you start looking at them enough, you'll just be riding on the highway and be like, "There's a deer right there."
earlier today, when I was cleaning up the porch and setting all this up, I was looking out the window and there was like 5 or 6 deer in the field across the street. Can't hunt it though, because got residential on the side, industrial on the back side, industrial on the left side, so you can't shoot towards nowhere with nothing. You can bow hunt it, but I'm terrible. Like I could hit a target. Like if we wanted to go outside and shoot a target, like I'll hit it, boom, target, no problem. But I think I drew back the biggest deer.
Good crossbow.
Yeah, I could get a crossbow. But I don't even deer hunt that much anymore. I put so much. I deer hunt shotgun week, shotgun season, and I pile up like 6 deer. And, I mean, that's the plan anyway. Last year I only piled up 2. And that's where I shot my first 7-pointer,
I'm just
my
happy
first
that
buck
it's
last year.
2-3 weeks into the season and I'm already.
And yeah,
on
you
a
filled your
quality.
quality buck tag. That's crazy. Yeah,
I
that's
still have my
awesome.
choice left. I'm glad that he was over 15. He was like 16 and a half, I think,
Yeah, that's close.
from outside base. It was close, but it was just enough to get me into
So you can use that
the
quality.
so that way now I can use my choice. So
You don't
I
have to be
go
so
up or down.
selective.
Yep.
You don't have to be so selective. Yeah, and
So
I definitely want to. I definitely probably will deer hunt more. There's property out back that I got the rights to that we pay to hunt back here. Me and my neighbor, we share a lease, and then we have this field out back. I mean, it's like 100 acres, but the deer never come on this side of the hedgerow. So we got
Gotta
to
get some geese out there too.
We've tried geese hunting, goose hunting. They goose hunt across the street. You can goose hunt across the street and pigeon hunt and dove hunt and all that stuff. You can shoot bird shot and steel shot and stuff like that, but you can't shoot slugs and stuff like that. Cause
Yeah.
I mean, I know I deer hunt with a Remington 870 slug gun, and I got a scope on it and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm not shooting 200 yards with that thing.
Yeah.
Shoot maybe pushing it if I'm shooting
I
100
had
yards.
a Remington 870, and I had a scope on the rifle barrel that I put on. It was just a pump. It was the one that came with the bird barrel.
Yeah, that's the
and
one
the
I got.
rifle barrel. The kit 870 Express Magnum.
Yeah, it's the exact one I got.
And I shot a doe at 150 yards with that with a slug. That was when the light fields were real popular back in the day. It's a long time ago.
They don't even they
The
stopped
original
making them.
blue light fields, man. We used to hunt down in St. Mary's County. Good friend of my grandfather was Mr. Tracy. He used to own Dennis Point Marina down in St. Mary's County. So we used to hunt down his property. And that was right when them light fields came out. That was like the talk of the day was
Yeah.
light fields, man.
Dude,
Everybody was shooting
my
light
neighbor still hunted with. He had 20 gauge light fields that he was hunting with up until last year, and then they had to re-sight their guns in with the. I think they switched over to the SST Hornadies, and because that was the closest thing to it. And yeah, they just don't make light fields no more anywhere. So if you got them, I guess you got them. You know, what I mean, there's nothing you can. You know, what I mean, once you run out, you're out. They ain't making them no more.
Now,
That's
I
tough.
just picked up the Ruger American 350 straight wall cartridge.
Oh yeah, that's
I just
nice.
picked that one up. Brian's got the 450 Bushmaster.
Yeah, I remember when he got that.
Both the same gun, just the 350 small.
Yeah.
So I'm dying to get that dialed in and be able to use that this year.
Yeah, speaking of that, so I guess we're pretty much all caught up on the dog talk. I can't think of any more questions to ask you about the retrievers. You got any more questions about about beagles or rabbit hunting or anything like that?
One thing was transportation. Like how do you go about transporting that many dogs safely? You know, to be able to get out there and
So
is it like
I
a
have-
multiple truck thing or? Like,
I mean, it
you know,
depends. It all depends on how many dogs you want to bring. Like if I want to load up all 6 of mine, I have a dog box, a diamond-plated dog box in the back of my truck that's secured down, is bolted right to the bed, or some guy's ratchet strap theirs in. And you know, you can put some bedding in there, or some cushion, or whatever you want if you wanted to. I use cedar chips because cedar kind of repels insects and spiders, and all that keeps them out from coming in the dog box. But I kind of just, you know, I'll put 3 in one side, 3 in the other, and some guys, their whole truck bed is a dog box, you know, so they'll load up 18, 20 dogs and they'll have like a cage that encloses into the truck box or into the truck bed, and they have it that way. That's the safest way to it. Some guy, I mean, my buddy, My buddy Taven over at Steady Pressure Kennels, he started rabbit hunting out of the back of a Chrysler Pacifica. He had his two rabbit dogs in a regular retriever cage right out of the back of the thing, and you know, it's to each its own, pretty much. You know, you start out with what you can start out with. Some dog boxes are wood, some dog boxes are diamond plate, some are plastic. I was hunting out of dog crates like that you would see at an airport for the longest time, just
I'm a
because
strong
I knew they
believer
were
in
that.
the crates. I had the gunner kennel.
Yeah, those are good.
Dutch to put in the back of the truck, and I had a lady say something to me at the gas station one day. I was taking him down to go train while it was freezing. There was ice on the water. Just taking him down and getting him used to the cold. And I would take him out 15, 20 minutes, let him run in the cold, get used to it, come back in.
Yeah.
Let him go back out. Because you got to give him a break after a while. If you don't, you just keep sending that dog and sending that dog. That's why when it's real cold, they'll have a few extra dogs. But you'll have
So you let them dry out a little bit.
Yep, let them kind of cool off. Because they'll sit there. When their teeth start chattering, that's no more water.
Right, let them chill out.
They'll just roll right over in the water and die.
Yeah, you can't have that.
It'll freeze them out.
Yeah, no.
But the lady had said to me and was like, "That's a shame that you have your dog back there in that box like that." I said, "Well, ma'am, it's more safer for him to be in the back of the truck in this." I said, "His body heat, this kennel's made out of plastic, so his heat is incubating this whole entire thing. So it's actually it's warmer in there. If you put your hand in there, it's warmer than it is outside."
Yeah, 100%. That's how it is with the dogs. Cause we got like three, anywhere from 3 to 10 dogs in one side of the dog box.
Yeah.
They're warm as can be back there, and they don't got to worry about the airbag hitting them. I think that's the point you were getting at to me, because I remember I was over at your place the other day, and we were explaining to your mom, like, "Hey, mom, you shouldn't keep your dogs in the passenger seat with you. You should keep them in the crate."
So when the
Yeah,
dog's
you
in
ain't
the
buckled
car,
up with a dog.
you can't buckle them up. So if you hit the brakes or have a head-on collision, dog's going right through the window. It's dead.
Curtains. Yeah, even if he doesn't go through the window, that dog's not. They're not coordinated. I mean, they're coordinated, but they're not coordinated enough to brace for an airbag, or know not to brace for the airbag, and they're just gonna get slammed into the seat or the door, and it's just gonna.
Now the gunner kennel, they have testimonies of people with their crates in the back of the truck of it flying out of the whole truck. Going 80, 90 yards, and the dog walked out of it without no problem. The person wearing the seatbelt had an injury. And the dog was perfectly fine. It was because of the kennel.
Yeah.
Like 100%. there is some kennels out there. Like I wouldn't say to use a plastic kennel. I mean it's.
Yeah, they're not as durable.
Put the money out and get something. Get a lucky dog. The best that you can get right now is the gunner. The luckies are good, but when they do the weight test,
dropping weights on top of
that gunner will hold. It'll hold some impact to it.
Nice. Yeah, I've noticed the diamond plates. The diamond plates are really heavy duty. There is other stuff called
Well, that you can bolt right down to the frame. It ain't going nowhere.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere for sure. And they dent up pretty easy and stuff like that. Like if a tractor trailer rolls over on you, no matter what it is, you're gonna be cooked. Even them gunner kennels you're talking about. I did see some videos on them when I was shopping for them. They actually do drop. Almost 1,000 pounds onto them things, and they stay completely intact. And they're insane for that. Like that's nice.
They're expensive.
They're dumb expensive.
They're
so
expensive.
Crazy. But how much? Like you said earlier in the video, it's an investment. Your dog is your investment emotionally, financially. You are invested in this creature. It's still a living being. A lot of people. In the summertime, I had a lady on Facebook comment talking about, "Oh, them dogs are back there sweating hot." Like, well, I've never seen a dog sweat. And their tongues are hanging out. They just got done exercising. They got plenty of water. Most of the newer, more expensive diamond plate dog boxes got water trays in them. They got heaters. They got exhaust fans. They got top of the line stuff for these dogs. Mine's just a basic one. It's got side vents, rear vents, and the door is a mesh cage. The air goes right through there. My dogs aren't dying in that. And in the wintertime, you can close the vents in the front and the side. Fill it with hay or cedar chips or whatever is your fancy. And dogs are completely comfortable and safe. They live for this stuff. My mom used to ask me, "You just had a litter of puppies there outside?" Yeah. They lived up here on the porch for a couple weeks. I make sure they were all healthy and stuff like that because, it's an investment. But after that, I just let their mom raise them and they did their thing. And every single one of them survived and made it to homes, and people are happy with them. I got one that's in Virginia right now running hair, and I got another one that went to some little girl as a pet, and she's happy as can be. And another one is getting ready to start it, and then my two that are getting ready to go to the training pen in a couple of weeks. You know, it's pretty successful litter so far. We'll see if they have any faults when they start running rabbits, but.
Now, speaking of kennels, that's one thing I could touch on a little bit more. The reason why labs are kennel trained is because of the blind.
Right. So
We
you
want
mean
the
kennel
dog to
trained as
use-
in like the crate inside the house?
Yes, kennel up. So that when you're out there, that dog knows everywhere he goes. So a kennel for a dog, the dog should only be able to go into the kennel, turn around, lay down, and it should be exactly the size of the dog. You don't
Right.
want too much room in it because then he'll urinate or want to use the bathroom in it if he's left in there.
Yeah, they experience
for
that
long.
with puppies a lot in them outdoor kennels.
So it's also good to have your dog kennel trained if he's a house dog because it gives him a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have friends come over, they have a young child that's kind of being a little too rough with the dog, he's going to get up, walk away, he's going to go lay down in a safe place.
Right, then
You
the
know,
kid
you
can't
jump
follow
up.
him in there and all that
Yep.
stuff. You know, it's
So
really.
it kind of gives him a place of, security and reassurance that he can go in there and lay down and nobody's going to bother him.
Yeah.
Dutch wouldn't come out until I told him to. I could tell him to kennel up and he would stay in there. And you just see him peeking his head out, looking up at me, just waiting, like, come on, let me out. Like, I get up in the morning, he'd hear the coffee machine going, and you just see him, he'd just be laying there, like, hunched forwards. As soon as I call his name, he would take off out of that thing,
Yeah.
like a bat out of hell, ready to go outside to use the bathroom.
That's funny. That's a lot of similar stuff with the beagles. They hear, if they see my truck pulling up in front of their kennels outside, they know they're getting ready to get loaded up.
Yeah.
So they're like, they get excited, hyped up, and and maintenance on a dog with keeping them outside, like they're all elevated off the ground. So when they go to the bathroom, it just falls down underneath the kennel. Except for Finn, obviously, he's like 60 pounds. I'm not going to put him in an above the ground kennel like that, but.
Yeah.
The fecal and urine just falls down into the grass, and I just rake it up, and I can bury it in the field or throw it out into the cornfield or whatever I do with it. And it's a lot less maintenance. The dogs they're easier to check. So another thing I wanted to touch on too, and I don't know if you've seen any on my social media, is I'll stack the dogs up. It's called stacking them up. Like I'll hold their tail and I'll hold their chin, and they'll kind of stand still on the tailgate. When we do that, we're kind of showing the dog off, because part of trialing a dog, I don't know a whole lot about it, but part of being judged in the trial is the bench. So when you put your dog on the bench and how well he stacks up, you get judged on that.
Yeah.
And so, but it kind of translated over into when you're gun hunting the dogs, you're stacking them up, you're checking them for cuts, briars, thorns in their paws. A good dog will stack up, you touch his chin, touch his tail. He'll kind of look up, tail will stand up, and you can kind of feel the dog for any bumps and bruises and examine them for any ticks and fleas and stuff like that. We actually, a method of keeping fleas and ticks off of the dogs is we'll take the collar here and we'll wrap a cattle tag. Like you would clip on the cattle's ear.
Yeah.
But it's like the insecticide ones that keep away the ticks and the fleas off the cattle. And we'll clip it to the collar and then put that on the dog instead of obviously clipping it to their ear, because who wants that?
Yeah.
That's one way of method. Or you can spray them down with the citronella. I have a citronella spray that I spray my dogs down with before I take them out in the field or before I bring them home. I like to do it after, because like citronella all up in their nose, I need them to be using their nose.
Yeah.
Not that I feel like that would make a difference, but in my head it does.
It could.
So I like to bring them out there raw, and then when I get done running them, I'll check them down, and then I'll spray them up, and then they'll get all tickless and flealess. Sometimes, there was one time, I could just see them falling off a dog. And running them in the summertime, it's like, it's cool, it's fun, but it's not like top priority on my list, because you can't see nothing anyway. Everything's so grown up. When everything dies down and turns brown, that's when you see the dogs running through the bushes and the briars and the rabbits freaking taking off. It's pretty dope.
Now with labs, you can't wash them with soap except for every 6 months.
Because they got that oil base, right? Like they keep them waterproof.
Like you can, even when you try to scrub them with soap, it's almost impossible. It's so hard to get the soap down into the bottom where the soft fur is, because they're two coat. They got a long, like thick, rugged coat on the outside, then they have like a real soft, almost like a down fur material underneath it.
Like an insulation.
So I mean, water beads off them. You can spray them with a hose, and they'll look like they're wet a little bit, but as soon as you flick their hair up, it's bone dry under.
Yeah, or they shake and they're dry right away again.
Now that was one thing I taught Dutch. When he would bring the bird up, as soon as he would get out of the water, he would stop. I would tell him shake. He would shake there before he came over to me, before he got into the blind or somewhere else where he's not, getting water all over the guns and stuff like that, making everybody else freezing cold, getting water in your face.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. See, I feel like if I was training a dog, I would have never thought of that. I mean, maybe I would have in that, if I would have been part of that lifestyle, but just having this conversation with you, it never came into my mind to say, well, when a dog gets all wet, what's he doing when he comes back in the blind? Because I know Finn, it can start sprinkling raining outside, and he just starts shaking right away. Like, he's not waiting to get away from me or nothing. Or if I give him a bath in the house, like, he's shaking in the tub after, you just squirted him down with all the soap.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, it's over. Like, you're getting wet. Like, terribly.
Yeah, he would get in the water, he would get out, and he would just stare at me, and he would start whining. Because I'm not telling him to shake yet. He was like, I want to get it off me, man. Like, come on, go ahead, tell me. He was a good dog, though.
Yeah.
I didn't get into, as far as showing or trying to go to competitions and all that. I never got into it. My buddy Bruce Howard down in Maryland, he does it, and he's doing really well with him.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine in Jersey that bred and trained retrieving labs, and he's got a couple partners out in Jersey and stuff like that too. Like, so when you're ready to get into it, I'll let you know. I'll put you in contact with some people that will be able to get you some stock.
To get into it. I think my next one I do want to get a silver lab.
Yeah, they seem pretty interesting. Like pretty interesting dogs.
Beautiful dog, man.
They
look. You would think if you kind of glance at it riding by that it was a GSP is what it would look like.
Wow, yeah, I've never seen one in person. I mean, I've looked
especially
them up
the American, the English lab. Not so much. I don't think it would look like a GSP, but the Americans, they have the more slender nose. Like the picture you see in the Dutch, you can see where somebody would think he was GSP or had GSP in them because the Americans are a little bit taller. They're not as tall as the GSPs, but they're a little bit more. They're the working dog.
Yeah,
is what they're considered. The American. There is no true American lab or English lab. They're all just a lab. It's just a different make off of them for what they tried to pick out of the breed to breed one that was taller, skinnier, and it's more of a working dog.
So AKC recognizes them as labs, not specific breeds. But like, if you're looking at, say, their pedigree, like their ancestry, it would say like Dutch American Lab, or and then it would say like somebody else was an English Lab on their family.
And the temperament is different between the two.
Okay.
So like my mom's dog, she has a yellow American and a chocolate English, and you can tell the difference in between them two, even between the English chocolate and the American chocolate that I had. They would play together all the time, and you could just see the two differences in when it was time to work.
Right.
Like when I went outside, first thing Dutch would do is he would just be walking with me, looking straight up at my face the whole time. Where he would want to go mosey off, lay down, play.
Right.
Maybe play fetch and stuff here and there, but it just wasn't the same mentality of the dog. So my mom never trained him, never did really anything with him besides sit, stay, and play fetch with him a little bit. And when I brought him out there, he wouldn't sit and stay for me. He wouldn't listen. He would take off all the time. After about an hour of me sitting out there training the Dutch, he was sitting there the whole time and look up at me. And every time I gave Dutch a command, he would sit there and he'd see his head lift up. And Coda would keep looking over at him, and he was mimicking it. So labs will mimic what they see.
Right.
So it is good to try to get the dogs around other veteran dogs. Doing it in the blind's not the place for it, man. Because you'll have everybody getting mad as shit at you.
Yeah, that's the same. Like, I guess it's just etiquette. Even in what you're saying about in the blind, if your dog's doing dumb shit out in the field when you're hunting rabbits. And there's plenty of guys who will say, yo, man, you got to put that dog in a truck or you got to get the F up out of here. Because, like, it's a dog cold trailing dog is probably one of the most disrespectful things you can bring on a rabbit hunt. And I've had my share of cold trailing dogs, and they ain't here no more. They get given away as pets or given to somebody who's just starting out, kind of just trying to learn. And then they realize that it's, a cold trailing dog, not what it's supposed to be doing. And that's just a dog who's running around barking, smelling an old rabbit from the day before or hours ago, like barking, and there's no rabbit.
Yeah.
Like if your dog's barking, like when we go, I'm running tomorrow morning with my buddy Taven. If our dogs are barking, there's a rabbit. Like without a shadow of a
That's
doubt.
after church, right?
Nah, I'm going. It's 4 a.m. I'll be up there probably like 6 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're definitely going to church tomorrow, right?
I might.
Okay.
My girl's definitely taking the kids to church, but I probably ain't gonna be there. Cause I'll probably be too tired.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah. I have. Trust me, I've been lacking going to church here lately. I went last weekend to the baptism party because that was just, just felt like I had to. My cousin was getting baptized.
Well, that was my first time. I haven't been to church Christ in years. I used to go to church every single week. Went to Awana. We went to the First Baptist Church at Lewis, and I went for years and years.
Yeah, I was going for years too.
That church is.
It's lit.
It's
Yeah, I love
it's
it, dude.
not. I mean, if you guys aren't going to church, or if you want to check one out, check out Bayshore down in Rehoboth, man. It's
Bayshore
more of
Community
a
Church
nightclub / stand-up comedy than it is. It'd make you feel right at home. If you're worried about a strict church and stuff.
Yeah, it's the church for the unchurched, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely not, you don't gotta wear nothing. Like, you can come there in your pajamas and you'll be alright.
Yep.
Everybody's welcome.
That's what
for sure.
Ryan had said. He was like, you come into this church, you can tell who's new because they'll come in with a suit, all dressed up real nice, and everybody else just
then the
wearing
next
basic
week,
clothes.
the next week they come in, they're just wearing regular clothes for sure. Like I dress nice, I like to look nice, but I definitely ain't wearing a suit there for sure. It's in the basement, underneath the castle pools.
Yeah.
So it ain't nothing crazy, but it's a nice church. It's fun. It was definitely good to see you there, man, for sure. It's definitely a good environment to be in, for sure. For sure.
But yeah, I couldn't thank you enough for bringing Finn out there, man. That's
coming to get the deer. Yeah.
That was an experience.
Yeah, I was like debating. I was gonna be late for work if I came to help you, and I was like, man, I gotta go. I didn't have no permethrin. I didn't have no pants. I was just like, screw it, man. Just go grab the dog, and I'll go give you a hand. I'm glad he found it, man. Like I said, he's been on the bench for a while, and you could tell like he was a little rusty in the beginning. And like when we first got out there, he was just wanting to run around and be a dog. Yep. But then after it was time to go and he was all wore out, got the zoomies out of his system, he was like, all right.
Yeah,
we were working our way back, and he was just like, he hit that track on the way back, and he about yanked my arm out when he actually locked eyes with that deer. And he thought it was still alive.
Over in the sticks.
Yeah, he thought it was still alive, I guess. He wanted to chase. He loves to chase stuff. But
so when I shot that one, he didn't go but 80 yards.
Yeah, so that's what it mapped out to be? Because I didn't even get back up.
When I walked in, he had jumped up. He was laying down. Not even 80 yards from where I shot him. He jumped up, ran a little bit, laid back down. And I was like, all right, well, let me back off for a little while. So I backed off. Ryan went and got the four-wheeler. He came up, and we went to walk in. And we seen him again, and he was laying there. And we could see his eyes through the trees with the flashlight shining. He was still laying down. He had bedded down again. And we were looking at him, and I'm like, I don't know. I was like, maybe we could put another arrow in him or something, or try to finish him off. Yeah. And Ron was like, let's just back out. We'll just wait till the morning, come back in, and then as we turned around, he got up and he ran again. Right. So right at that spot where I showed you the two marks were the one that I was at, and there was that other one that was before it. Mm-hmm. That first one closest to where he came in at, that's the spot where he ran to the last time. So that was the last spot that we marked him at. Yeah. So the spot that I marked was as far as the blood trail. I didn't know, and when we found him, I don't know if I was happy and excited that we found him.
You lifted me off my feet for sure. We were excited.
I was excited, but at the same time, I was disappointed because I looked for 4 hours. That blood trail stopped. So he ran, the blood trail stopped. I must have searched and looked for 4.5 hours. I could not find the next set of blood. I panned everything back and forth, laid down in the sled. Didn't know what to do, didn't think I was going to find him. When we found him, he was 50 yards behind me. So he walked up to that last spot of blood, which was a pool laying on the ground, turned around, went 50 yards behind me. Never even would have thought to look straight back.
Yeah.
Never even would have thought.
That's a thing that I picked up on with watching YouTube, watching these guys hunt deer with dogs and do deer drives through the woods.
That's right. I was just telling Ryan that yesterday.
When them deer get into that situation where they're injured or scared, the mature bucks, they know that the danger is coming from behind them,
Yeah.
So they just try to get behind the danger itself, and then they end up getting away half the time. That's how they end up being, that's how smart they are. And that's exactly what this deer did. After y'all jumped him up, he was like, well, I got to get behind these guys. And then he realized that you guys, well, it looked like actually he got tangled up in them vines.
Yeah,
and just crashed
stuck.
right
he
there.
Had 2 branches crossed right across his arm.
And then right as you guys were leaving, he was so locked up from rigor mortis, he probably died very shortly after you guys left. I mean, you seen that possum was all the way up in his ass.
Yeah.
It looked like the possum was inside his guts still.
It was.
We were trying
moving.
to harvest the deer.
That's why I kicked it a little bit and was stomping on it to get him moving. You could see his belly.
It was just bad. Yeah. Well, at least the meat didn't go to waste. It went back into Mother Earth, and you were able to get a good story and a good trophy out of it, and
That's my first one in Delaware.
Yeah, that's right. That's
my
right.
first buck in Delaware.
My first. I'm gonna move on my little antlers out here. I got little tiny ones. I got like a little spike buck.
I got some little ones.
I got a little spike buck that's got 2 prongs off the top of them like that. I think it actually registered as antlerless. It's so small, but I cut the skull cap off of it.
I have a 6-pointer that's literally just like that.
That's crazy.
I mean, literally, it's 3-4 inches tall, and it has. I mean, it's a full 6-point, just miniature. I mean, it is so small.
That's hilarious.
And that one, I told Ryan that it was a monster. I was like, I shot a monster.
Oh, dude, that's what I did with my
When
buddy.
he came up and we went looking for that one, that was an experience in itself because he went into, it was briars where the deer have walked through it so much that there was tunnels going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in there and he was laying down right in front of us, so we thought he was dead. He jumped up and went to take off. And mind you, you couldn't even stand up in these things. Like you can't.
You got armor. I'm all too familiar with the rabbit hunting.
So he come running straight at us. Ryan jumped backwards like this in the knee, busted my lip and stuff. And there was nowhere you could go. He wound up running into a different trail. We thought he was dead, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
And that kind of scared us. But it's like around here, hunting in the salt marsh to me is the most treacherous thing I've ever done in my life.
You can find a freaking soft spot and you can sink up to your chest and
you can just walk right down up your neck.
It's nuts, man. That when you were telling Ryan that little 6-pointer was a monster, I was hunting back here on the property, and it was an opening day of shotgun week, and I'm sitting in my stand, and it's early. It's still early evening. Sun's super out. My buddy Justin just got to his stand that's back there as well, and I'm sitting there, and I thought I heard like a doe bleed. So I hit my doe bleed back, and this thing comes from behind me. I hear it making a scrape on the ground. And I'm like, holy shit, these things are running through here. And then I'm looking around and I don't see nothing. I keep hearing it making this scrape, and I go like this and I look behind me. So, and I see this, all I see is antlers. And it's my first, I've never seen a buck on hoof that close before in my life. So I'm sitting I'm in a double man stand, and I go to turn around, and he's just busy raking away at the ground. So I put the 870 up on my shoulder, and I freaking blast him, and I freaking smoke him. And he just, I think that's the one that just dropped. I just killed him. Then I got him out of the woods and went back home. And then that was exciting. I called my boy Frank on the phone. I said, Frank, I shot a monster, dude. And he lives down the street. He's like, well, bring him over to the house, man. We'll put him up on the game. We'll get you some pictures. I'll get him back to the house, over to his house. It's a freaking, this one, it was a nice 7-pointer with a crab claw. It was a decent buck. Smaller than the one that you shot the other day, but it was a decent buck. But then the next day I went back out, and I'm sitting in my stand, and my buddy Lee's in the other stand, and this spike comes in, big body boy. Like, I'm like, you're a spike that was a big buck that now you're old and you can't grow antlers. So I'm ready to shoot him. So he comes up, I got the 870 again, and I got 3 shells in it, and then got my, legal amount of bullets in the gun. And I'm sitting there like this, and this bitch is walking over on the side of me. I hit my bleat, my doe can. He puts his head up. I shoot him right in the neck. And then he falls down, and he's running with his back leg still. I said, there ain't no fucking way.
Yeah.
Then I shoot him again, hit him in the front shoulder, his fucking leg falls off. He's got 3 legs now, and he's still trying to get away. So then I shoot him in the ass again, and finally stopped his back legs. My buddies tell me that story's backwards. My buddies tell me that I shot him in the ass, then I shot him in the leg, and then when he finally fell down and he was laying around, I finished him off with the neck shot. But I swear, I'm telling you, the neck shot was the first shot.
Yeah.
And they make fun of me all the time. Dude. They tell that story all the time. I haven't.
We've all made some poor shots. Not a lot of people want to admit it, man, but
Oh,
we've all
dude,
made some poor
it was
shots.
bad. Like I think my worst judgment call ever was I just got my bow. I'm out of the sanitation. I drew like stand 11. I got like stand 11 or something like that, and this basket 8 comes walking out into the ag field, and he's like, I range him. He's at like 87. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna send an arrow, and I send this arrow, freaking 87 yards, and freaking I nearly got him. It was close in my head, but then I go and collect my arrow and I range my stand back, and I was nowhere near. I shot like the arrow landed like 107 when the deer was only 87. So I overshot. I don't know how you overshoot something that far away with a regular compound bow, but he was nuts. And then at that sanitation place back there off of that Wolf Neck track, there's some big monsters back there. But you gotta sit in them. You gotta sit in them stupid little box blinds that they got you freaking set up in with them little food plots underneath them. Nothing mature buck is coming up to feed in that food plot right underneath of this big wooden thing in the middle of the field. Like, and you can only archery hunt there.
Yeah.
You can only archery hunt.
Now I picked up that Raven R26X, the new one.
Yeah, those are nasty.
Man, that thing is.
Those are they're a little bit out of my budget, but they shoot fast. And
that's
far,
the first
for sure.
deer I shot with it, and that's the first deer I shot this year.
That's nice.
There's another one out there where we hunt at, and there's another big one out there. Me and Ryan both seen it. There's a tank that's out there running around. So hopefully one of us will get it.
Mike shot the biggest deer I ever seen in my life out there.
Dude, there's
crazy.
There's some big deer.
That freaking thing is as wide as this table. I'm like, dude, is that like? That's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane for sure.
There's more of them out there. We've seen another one just here recently, so hopefully one of us will pick up on them before the season ends, or you don't jump property before it gets cold.
Yeah, for sure. That would be terrible. For sure. I just realized that was on the whole time, so hopefully it didn't get picked up too much on the mic. I don't think it did. When I was testing earlier, it was on there. But yeah, I think we about covered everything, man. Where can people find you on social media? If you can give plug your Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's JL_Crawford.
And that's on TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok and Instagram.
Okay.
Just a few of my followings too that I follow. If anybody's interested in bass fishing, if you're around Maryland, give Scott Sewell with Middle River Bassin. Give him a shout. Talk to him and he'll kind of get you right. I was in a bass fishing tournament with them and was in their club down in Maryland for a while. Crabs, Maryland, if you guys are out that way. Cass Kenny with the crab stand. If you guys are local, if you don't know Kelly Outdoors, he'll get you set up and get you right.
For sure, man. And for anybody just tuning in, you can find me on Facebook at Johnny Bizignero. And I got a few pages on there. All my links to all my social medias are on my Facebook. You can reach me out on there. And for you guys watching on Instagram, sorry I didn't get to your comments. My plan did not work, be able to look at my phone and get the comments to answer any questions y'all have. I promise I'll do better next time. With that being said, man, thanks for tuning in. This has been the Let's Talk Podcast. I'll get at y'all next time. See y'all.